Happy Thanksgiving weekend, or as I like to call it, day 4 of waking up and not really knowing, or thinking it's Saturday, or not really knowing what day it is. For those of you in the retirement phase of your life, it's not a bad gig. I'm not going to lie. I mean, you're just kind of waking up and it's like, what are we going to do today? I don't know. Not going to lie. I'm kind of looking forward to that in a few years, but yeah, not anytime soon. I didn't win the Powerball, but I'm thankful to be here while Pastor Doug and Jay spend some time resting and spending time with their family. So honestly, really, you got the third string quarterback, and most of the time with a third string quarterback on a football team, they just take the playbook and throw it out the window. They might really just come up with some kind of whirly-do pass or, squirrely, run around the corner and just kind of make up something as they go, or have somebody randomly pick a play or just close their eyes and just point at something and hope that they make it. I don't know. Or in the case of my beloved Florida Gators, that is just how they practice and prepare for their regular game calling every week in this rebuild year. It is, it is frustrating, but there's always next year, I guess. I mean, that's all I can say if anybody has watched the Orange and Blue. But this morning, I'm going to take a play out of Pastor Doug's playbook. See what I did there? And we're going to start off our time together, and I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I'm grateful for. And if this was a normal time and our projector wasn't working, there's a beautiful graphic that I created that says gratitude. So you have no idea what I'm going to talk about, third string quarterback stuff right there. So just imagine, close your eyes, squint, turn your head to the side if you need to, and just imagine the most beautiful graphic that says gratitude. So I'm going to talk about things that I am thankful for. First off, God, duh. Faith, my wife, obviously, had to put that one in there. Family and friends, specifically text conversations with family and friends, the ones that see the good and the ones that see the bad, sometimes more bad than I'd like to admit, but those groups of people that when things are going well or when things are not going well, that I can turn to and have shared conversation. Our church family. I am thankful for our church family and for our groups, ministry, for our children and for our youth, and all of the things that happen outside of a Sunday morning, and the ability that we have to have a unique and welcoming, judgment-free space for people to come when they're hurting, when they're scared, or when they want to celebrate. And it is a unique experience that many of you have had in previous churches that you've been in. And then to experience this is pretty unique in the environment that we strive to build, but also that we strive to protect as well. I am thankful that on the other side of those cameras right there is probably somebody sitting in your robe. Hopefully you're in some type of clothed manner. But the fact that on the other side of the camera, we have the ability to broadcast our services live and then be able to show it and have it online for you to listen to during the week. 3-4 years ago, if you would have told me that we were going to have this technology, it would have really blown my mind and kind of scared us. But here we are, and the pandemic really opened up our eyes that you don't have to be in a physical building to worship. Obviously, the music and the environment and seeing everybody and gathering together, there is a spiritual need for that. But when you're away, when you're not here, you do have the ability to connect with us not that we watch, but we are thankful that you are with us and joining us. But also, more importantly with that, I am thankful for all of the volunteers behind the scenes that pull it off. Every single Sunday, to our rotation of volunteers that make the slides and everything online run, make sure that we have volume and everything is put together. So I am thankful for our tech team. It is what you see on stage is just one part of this, but there is a whole team of dedicated volunteers that I am grateful for. I'm grateful and thankful for the ability to play the drums. And if you have ever heard me sing, you are grateful that I have the ability to play the drums. Thank you. Joel just doesn't see the diamond in the rough with this angelic voice. But I choose to express my worship, and it really, for me, it really is a worship experience when I am able to play the drums. So I'm thankful for that. A couple of other things: employment, home, vehicles, laughter. I'm thankful for laughter. As you can tell, I don't really take myself too serious. But I think that it is one of those things that laughter, it changes your perspective. And it changes the way that you see things and not take it so seriously. Kind of going back to the text messages, there are times that it is inopportune jokes made, not by me, by my sisters, really. I'm really talking about my sisters. They are the ones, but laughter, being able to laugh. I'm thankful for hugs from our family after a rough day. When I come home and Carrie and the boys are there and our dog is there to greet me. I'm thankful for this precious, sweet being from God that is ground and ran over hot water. And here's a free tip of the day. Free tip of the day. I learned this from a boss a while ago. Drink your coffee in the mornings. If you're a coffee drinker, drink your coffee in the morning before you brush your teeth. It will completely change the way that your coffee tastes. I didn't believe it, and then I tried it, and it is part of my morning ritual. When I get up in the morning, I will drink a cup of coffee before I sometimes get ready for the day. And then, like coffee, drinking it before I brush my teeth, and then, I kid you not, a sliver, a half a fraction underneath that, I'm thankful for toothpaste. Because the last thing you want is morning breath and coffee breath at the same time before you go and interact with humanity, because nobody would be thankful for that. But give it a shot. It's a tip of the day. Drink your coffee before you brush your teeth. I'm thankful for health. We have had some difficult years, and just coming out of the pandemic and people that have been affected by it, and I'm thankful for health. I'm thankful for the days that I wake up and there's not a random muscle that's pulled that I really just don't know I even had that muscle. Or, in my case, thankful that when I bend over to pick up a shirt off the ground that I don't pull my back, which has happened more times than I would like to admit. Some people say that's because of my old age, but looking forward to that retirement time. But this is a time of year where it's good to stop and pause and to reflect on the things that you're thankful for. Because gratefulness is one of those shared experiences by everybody. And if you think about it, you don't really have to be a follower of Christ or a certain nationality or anything. It is a shared experience to be grateful for someone or something. I mean, think about it. This morning, when you were coming in and you hit that green light, you probably said, "Thank you, Lord." Or when somebody gave you a gift, it's customary to say thank you. Or for us, we went out shopping on Friday, and my cup runneth over with gratefulness. Not at the deals. That was great. I was thankful. We saved some money. And the ability to go out, that was fine. But my heart just exploded when I was able to get that very front parking spot at Target, of all the places. I kid you not. We pulled into the parking lot and came around the corner, and the El Numero Uno spot was wide open, and the first thing out of my mouth was, thank God. I don't know. Because this attitude, it allows you to just be thankful. And you have those same experiences. And we're taught this at a young age. I know when I was a kid, my mom, every Christmas, birthday, anytime we received anything, I knew I was going to get a gift, and I had to write a thank you note. And, I would make up stuff, but it was something that was embedded in us as children. And then we grow up and we teach it to our kids. Somebody gives you a gift, what do you say? Or you go up and, you go trick-or-treating, what do you say? Say thank you. Why do we do this? It's because we are teaching ourselves to be grateful for somebody who gave something to us that they didn't have to do. Many times we remind our boys, they didn't have to give you this. They didn't have to provide this or give your time, because they don't really have to do anything, but they chose to because they loved you. And we all experience this as we are older and we're given a gift. And, like I said, it's customary to say thank you. But then there's times when we don't say thank you, or our attitudes don't reflect this heart of gratefulness. And oftentimes that unexpressed gratitude communicates ingratitude. And ingratitude hurts. And if you think about it, as I was going through the list of things that I was thankful for, I'm sure there was somebody that you thought of that you're grateful for, or a thing that you are grateful for, a talent, a gift that you're thankful for. But then, now that I kind of flipped the script a little bit, yeah, you know what? I did give that person that gift, and they just walked away. Or it is a nonverbal ingratitude. So I'm going to admit that one of my pet peeves when driving is one of my pet peeves. There's a lot. But one of my pet peeves when driving is when you're merging, you don't give the hand wave. You don't give the hand wave. And, I try to always give a hand wave, or even there's times when we're driving, if we're making a turn, if we're doing something, I'll tell Kara, hey, wave to those people, stick your hand out the window and wave to them. But when it doesn't happen and that gratitude is not expressed, there's part of us as humans that are just like, I should have left you on the on-ramp and just sat there, because you saw the sign that said you had to merge way back then with the flashing lights, but you chose not to, and you chose to be a interesting person to third string quarterback right there, almost slipped up on us. And so it's like, hey, I, out of the greatness of my heart, slow down to let you come in, because you're selfish enough to not follow the directions of everybody else. Give me a hand wave. Not that hand wave, but give me a hand wave. And it's like, come on, that is just an ingratitude consumes the one that provides the gift. But oftentimes it does not even dawn on the person that has been the recipient of the gift. And if you think about it, really what ingratitude does is it creates this friction in a relationship. Because a time had passed and you gave something and you didn't say anything, and the person who gave the gift, it's like, I spent my time on this, especially if you make something for somebody. I spent my time, and really as I've gotten older, time, it's easy to give money, but when you take the time to do something for somebody or make something and they didn't do anything, it creates that friction. And it creates that point of like, you know what? See if I help you out again. And this is true because, like me, I'm sure you've had those similar situations. Or you're at work. For those of us that are not in the glorious retirement years, the rest of us drudging in corporate America, at our office, we have a reward program. We can recognize people, and we can hand out rewards. You probably have a similar situation. In our company, we have multiple levels. You can handwrite a note, or we have monetary gifts that we can give to people. And a situation happened probably about a month ago where a certain analyst on a different team helped our team out at a very critical time. And so I rewarded this person with a monetary gift. And I sent it off, and we get big certificates, and it's supposed to be a big deal, and you present it, and a lot of rah-rah. So I got it approved. They got their money, and they got their certificate, and crickets. I was like, all right. So a couple of days go by, and I didn't hear anything, and I reached out to the manager, and I said, hey, did so-and-so receive the certificate and the reward? Yeah. Cool. That is a lack of, here's a corporate cliche for you. That is a lack of circling back of gratitude. And when you don't circle back, and circle back is used quite a bit in business or in any type of interaction, but the circle back, to be honest, a lot of times a circle back is a way to it's an answer to get you out of answering a question because you don't know how to answer the question that was asked of you. And so really it's just a way for you to either buy some time for research, which might be needed, or it's a way, hopefully nobody from my work is watching, but it's a way that maybe they'll forget about the question that they asked and that the problem will just magically go away. And, everybody says, and if I said it, hey, let's circle back to this, or let's circle back. I apologize, especially if I didn't circle back with gratitude. But it's one of those things that it is, when the circle back of gratitude doesn't happen, it really, really dings your credibility and your trust and the willingness of, maybe the question came from a senior leader in your company and they're expecting an answer, and you're like, yeah, let me circle back to it, and have no intention of circling back. It really dings the credibility. And there is a famous story in Luke, and it is a famous circle back story that we're going to take a look at. I would say it's going to be on the screen, but if you're at home, it's going to be on the screen, but got to break out your phones, or if you're using the Pew Bible, we're going to be on page 1050. 1050. Luke 17, page 1050. I'll give you a second to pull it up on your phone or flip to it. But the story is of the 10 lepers. And you have to understand that the setting for this narrative in this story is in a extremely remote area of the country. And if I had a map, we could show just how remote this event took place. But in Luke 17, verse 11, it says, now on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. We have to understand, and if you've been around church for a while, you understand that leprosy, the leprosy was more than just, something on somebody's skin. While it was a skin disease, it really was a debilitating disease that was considered highly contagious. And many times the lepers had to be, and it was part of the custom in the law, that the lepers had to be separated from society. And they had to be outside so that they didn't interact with the non-lepers. And when they would go out into the community, we know they would have to introduce themselves, and they would have to say that they were unclean. And if they were walking on a road and they were going into town, they would have to cross over onto the other side so that they didn't interact with somebody that was considered clean at the time. But the more interesting thing with lepers is that it was often debilitating for them, and so they couldn't work. They couldn't interact. They couldn't provide for their families. And many times they were actually separated by law to be away from their families because they just couldn't be with the rest of the society. And so these lepers were out in a remote area, and they see Jesus walking by. And the fact that Luke points out that they called out Master leads us to believe and understand that they knew Jesus. And not only did they know Jesus and that they wanted to see Jesus, but they knew that Jesus had the ability to heal them. And that they saw the Master word was reserved for highest levels of respect. And the fact that they were able to see and they understood and they called out in a loud voice, Jesus, Master, have pity on us. And then in verse 14, he saw them and he said, go show yourself to the priests. And at this moment, I think that there is a couple of kind of a twofold reason behind Jesus saying, go show yourself to the priest. One was because in order to be brought back into society, a leper had to go before the priest to be examined and physically declared that they were clean enough to enter back in, to go back and get jobs, to go back to be with their families. And so they had to go be ceremoniously clean in order to then become a regular member of society. But then I think Jesus also made them be, or told them to go, because once they saw 10 lepers walking in to the temple to be checked out by the priests, that would only increase Jesus' reputation. And the fact that he could take that and point it back to that fact that he was the Messiah and that it was truly a miracle. And then the verse 14, the backside of verse 14 says, and as they went, they were cleansed. It's important, again, to understand that these 10 lepers had been just completely removed from society, and they have seen their entire life just people being, they were ignored by people. And Jesus, having not met him, but they had heard about him, they stepped out in faith. And this is where a lot of times that we walk by faith, because they didn't know that when he told them to go, they just went. And they stepped out in faith. And many times as we go through our daily life, God says, how many times do we go in our daily life that God says go and we don't? Because we're afraid and we just are paused by that fear. But these lepers, they went out, and as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw that he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And Luke points out, and he was a Samaritan. If you understand a little bit, and we won't get into this right now, but if you understand, the Samaritans and the Jews, they hated each other. And there was very little interaction between those two cultures. But the fact that this man came back, probably he was doubly grateful, because he had been, not only just because of his physical nature, been ostracized from society, but he had also been politically and religiously removed from the belief structure within that time. And so he was very thankful. He threw himself at the feet of Jesus. But then Jesus, in verse 17, does a very Jesus-like thing, and he asks a question. Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Like, where, thankful this Samaritan came, but where are the other 9? Where were the other ones that had their opportunity to come and say thank you? Where did they go? We don't know. And there's part of me that feels like they were grateful. I mean, they had literally been a miracle, and they were able to go back into society, but they didn't. There was that unexpressed gratitude. And so there was that feeling of ingratitude. And then Jesus looked down and he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." When we get into situations, specifically when you see miracles happen, and we have been, our family saw a miracle with our oldest nephew, my oldest nephew. We saw, when you see miracles come in, and you have situations in your life where you can say, only God could do this. Only God could heal or provide. But then there's times, and we don't understand, we don't have the question, or we don't have the answers to the questions. And really, sometimes we never will. Why didn't this person get healed? Why wasn't that marriage restored? But in the midst of the gratitude, it is very important for us to always reflect on the goodness of God. And believe you me, it is difficult. It is incredibly difficult. I've experienced it in my life, and so have you. But when we are not grateful, and when we don't express the gratitude, sometimes in some parts of our society and culture, gratitude, can kind of come off as weak. Why do I need to thank them? They owe that to me. I deserve to do this. I spent my time helping them out. Yeah, they should thank me with a gift. But when we have that mentality, we have to be careful, because pride will seep in. And when we think that we can do it on our own, and when that vicious pride starts to seep in, we begin to push God out of the picture. And you've been there and I've been there. We've done things that we have think, God, we don't really need you. I can do this. I got this. I don't need you. And we fall flat on our face. I like to think, kind of going back to one of the things I'm thankful for, I kind of like to think God laughs at us. Because how much pride can seep in and really drive a wedge in our relationship with Christ. Because none of us got to where we are on our own. None of us. We didn't come out, and we weren't born and just thrown to the world. We had a parent. We had an aunt or an uncle or a grandmother who took us in and who took care of us in an absence of a parent figure as a child, and raised us and provided for us. And please don't hear me say not all situations are great and grand, and I get that. But as we grow up and as we go into our formative years, we've had teachers that have seen something in us, that have taken extra time to care, that have taken the time to invest their wisdom into you, and you get mentors through your life. Or maybe you had a boss or a colleague or a coworker who took care of you, or a friend who lent you some money when things were very difficult. Because we have to understand that everything that we are given, is not ours and it's a gift from God, but also that we did not get here on our own. And we physically can't continue to go through our life thinking that we can do it without God's grace and his mercy. And so this verbalized gratitude theme, it's a feeling. It's something that's internal that is then expressed. And when it is directly tied for me, I would assume you too. But my level of expressed gratitude is directly tied to my relationship and how close I am to God. And when the pride sets in and when the bitterness sets in, my track continues to go like this. And as I continue to just drive this massive wedge that is self-imposed, the gap between me and God get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's in those times where you have to have those red flags that you have to get back on track. And oftentimes, it starts with prayer. Because the closer you are to God, the easier it is to see how good God is. And the blessings and the things that he has given to us. And how we are provided resources that 99% of the world don't have. And as we are continuing into the holiday season and we're wrapping up Thanksgiving, if you've gone to Hobby Lobby, Thanksgiving actually began in July, Christmas began in October, and next week Easter will be out. But right now in the normal calendar of the world, not Hobby Lobby calendar, but the normal world, we're entering into a time that's difficult for a lot of people. There's a lot of pain that's associated around the holidays. In one of my former jobs, I saw this on a daily basis. The depression and the things, the seasonal depression, but also just this time of year, it can be great. And it can be wonderful and it can be celebrated for all that it is and the blessings that we have. But it's also important for us to remember that there are people that we interact with every single day that are battling struggles that we know nothing about. And they have internal things that are just heartbreaking, that are affecting them, and that they continue to march forward. Some of them, depending on their relationship with God, can see the good even in the midst of the bad. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there are people who are hurting. And as we continue through this holiday season, I want to challenge you as I challenge myself. And what would it look like if we practiced the circle back of gratitude? What would it look like if when somebody's checking us out in the counter at Target or Hobby Lobby, we say thank you? Or a server at a restaurant, because we don't know what's going on, or we don't know the internal struggles that they are just putting on a happy face and not letting anybody inside. And we don't know what a simple thank you can do. Because it is this time of year that we have to remember that God has given us all of our blessings. And so I want to challenge us to practice the circle back. When you're driving, here's your homework. Practice the hand wave. When you leave today, please hand wave. If you didn't get anything out of this, please just be kind and hand wave when you're traveling. Why? Why do we do this? Because it is the inward reflection of God's work in our life. It is what pleases God. It is what we're supposed to do as followers of Christ. And it is what the world needs to see right now. Let's pray.